Good morning. Good morning. Hi, I'm Sabrina. In just a second, we're going to be talking about sharing the tea on friend raising, your way to fundraising, and how to identify your next donors. But before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am the founder of Supporting World Hope, a nonprofit consulting company. I started after 25 years in the nonprofit industry. I started this company because I wanted to support small nonprofits with budgets of less than $4 million by helping them strengthen and sustain their mission. So before we get started, if you're on, click the heart or the like button if you can hear me loud and clear, and let me know where you're watching from. Even if you're watching in rebroadcast, just put hashtag replay and put Rocky Mount, North Carolina, if that's where you're watching from. This will also, oh, okay. What is friend raising? John, can you let me know if you can hear me? Let me see. Let me type into the chat button. Make a comment here. Yeah, I type really slow. Bear me not. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? So I'm hoping you can hear me. If not, I'm gonna have to jump off and maybe jump back in. Okay, great. Desiree said yes, you can hear me. Great. So it's what is friend raising? Friend raising is it's all about getting to know your donor very well. It's relationship fundraising. It's a fundraising approach that makes the donor the center of the relationship. And basically what you're doing is building a special relationship between the nonprofit and the donor. Friend raising is about crafting a donor-centered journey that predisposes them to want to give to you and keep giving, as opposed to a one-time or a token gift. Friend raising allows you to start the donor relationship with a real human connection. So why friend raise? Well, I rather have friends to my organization than donors. If you have a bunch of passionate friends for your organization, what could they do for your cause? They'll stick with you. They'll be loyal no matter what. They'll bring in other friends. They'll spread the word. And when the going gets tough, where will your friends be? They'll be right there with you, doing whatever it takes to keep you afloat. Will your friends give you money? Of course, they'll give you money if they can. So why don't we focus on creating passionate friends for our organizations rather than just donors? So who are the people you need to make friends? Today is just going, I thought I put my phone on do not. My husband is going to be very persistent. Today, I guess I'm a little bit off, but we're going to still keep going. So we're going to start again. Who are the people you need to make friends with? You're going to start with your current board and donors. You're going to do a mapping exercise. I like to call it, some people call it a circle of influence. I call it the sphere of it. My husband is very persistent, y'all, so I don't know how many times that's going to happen. I call it the sphere of influence. So basically, it's you, and then you do these off branches, and you say, okay, who are my friends? Who are the members of civic groups? Who do I go to church with? Who is my people I interact with, like my dentist, my doctor? And you do all these offshoots and you map out your different relationships. And you do that, and you have your board members do that as well. And you'll start to see a list growing of all the people that you can make friends with. So if you're just joining us, a couple of things. Welcome to our broadcast. We're currently talking about friend raising, your way to fundraising, how to identify your next donors. And we've just covered what is friend raising and why it's important, and who the people you want to make friends with. So let us know if you're watching by clicking the heart and the heart button. This is going to help us with the algorithms. And if you're watching in replay, do hashtag replay and where you're from. So again, if we get any disturbances, it's because Sabrina's not on her A game. And I guess I did not put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I could have sworn I went in and did that. So if, I apologize if we get some interference in advance. So we're talking about friend raising, and we're talking about building that special relationship between the donor and the nonprofit. And it is a very special relationship. But how long does that process take? You know, great friendships don't happen overnight. It will take time and dedication to forge a productive and sustainable friendship. And that is one of the things I like to talk about. I like to talk about it's like dating. You start to court people. Now that you know who the prospect is, you've done that mapping exercise, and you want to get to know these people and have a relationship, you have to go through the courting process. You just can't identify people, skip this part of courting them, and go straight to the ask. That is not building a relationship. You have to do cultivation, and you have to court them, and you have to do all those things before you make the ask, because you're trying to build a relationship where you can get reoccurring gifts, and not just one time or token gifts. The whole point is you don't want to leave money on the table because you skip this cultivation process. So you have to slow down, intentionally slow down, and cultivate. You have to court them. It's just like dating. You don't go on your first date and ask someone to marry you. If you did, you would think they're a little bit off, like my game is today. But you have to do the courting process. So now that you have your prospects identified, when you did that mapping exercise, you go into the dating phase begins, and it's called cultivation. And the number one goal of cultivation is to build relationships. Cultivation is everything that happens between the time you identify a prospect and the time you make the ask, your first ask. So there's a top 6 ways to cultivate donors. First and foremost, meetings. Meetings reign king. If you can get a face-to-face meeting with someone, that is the number one thing that you can do. And when you go into that meeting, your job is to really listen, not do a lot of talking, but it is to listen, because people give for different reasons. And if you listen, you will find out why they give, and you'll find out what programs they want to give to. Because if you're going to actually go in and talk to someone about a tax break, and that's not what they're motivated by, then you've missed the boat and you don't know your donor. And so when you do go in for these meetings, there's some discovery questions that you can ask. You can go in and to try to find out. So you can ask them what interests you the most about our organization. Why are you interested in our organization? You can ask them, why do you give in general? And what do you want to achieve by giving? And they'll tell you if they want to achieve a legacy. They'll tell you if they want to just give back. They'll tell you if they it's for tax purposes. Whatever it is, they will tell you. You can ask them what inspired them to give their first gift to a nonprofit organization. You can ask them what causes are they most passionate about. And you can ask them, how can we get more involved? How can we get you more involved in our organization? So if you can get a face-to-face meeting still reigns king. Get that face-to-face meeting. And again, when you get that meeting, you're there to listen, and you ask questions and you listen. Don't ask open-ended questions. Some of the examples I just gave you are some great questions that you can ask during that get to know me meeting. The second is phone call. Phone calls are very important. Phone calls build trust because you're interacting with them. You have them on the phone, and it starts to build trust. So if you go in, get that face-to-face meeting. It's one of the best ways that you can do it. The next is some phone calls. And I'm not saying do this or this. I'm saying you can do this and this, because really in a year, when you're building that friendship, you want to make at least 5 touches to these donors, and none of them are asking. Okay, so you can set up a meeting where you can go to their office, or you can take them out to coffee or lunch and all those things. And usually when I take people, when I'm doing this friend raising process and I take a donor out for lunch, a potential donor out for lunch, I still pay. Even though they have the capacity to pay, I invited them to lunch and they gave me their time, so I pay for their lunch. That's just a little tip for you. After meetings, then it's phone calls. Like I said, phone calls really build trust. You're picking up the phone, you're talking with them, you're engaging with them. Next, newsletters and other communications. Sending them newsletters about your organization, whether that's e-newsletters or print newsletters. You really have to decide if you're going to do both, one or the other. I say with your older potential donors, a lot of them don't like e-newsletters, so you really should just go with a printed newsletter, and it won't cost you a lot. It's something that you can do in-house, but communicate with them and put those newsletters out there. I want to say hi to Desiree and Gloria. Thank y'all for joining us. I have a question here. Is there any big mistakes to avoid in the cultivation process? Yes, the big mistake to avoid in the cultivation process is asking for money. Do not ask for money during the cultivation process. It is not about the money. It really is about getting to know them. Now, if they say, here, I'm going to give you a check right now, I mean, I'm going to ask myself, am I going to take that check? I probably will, but no, you're leaving money on the table. But you don't stop the cultivation process. So the biggest mistake to avoid in cultivation process is asking for money, because it's really not about asking for money. The other thing that you can do during the cultivation process is volunteer opportunities. And what that means is, you know, different organizations may have like a day of caring. You get them involved in that day. Some organizations may have programs where you can get them involved in. So for example, at the Boys and Girls Club, for example, where my background is, we had a lot of programs we had a program called Smart Girls. And so I had a panel of smart women come in and share their story to the girls. So that's getting them involved. You're not asking them for money, you are asking them for time, but more importantly, you're getting them in front of your mission. They come, they share their time, they tell their story, and they get involved with your, for lack of a better word, your client. And so that's what the volunteer opportunity is all about, getting them involved with your client and involved in your mission. If your mission is homeless and you have a shelter, well, you can have a day where we're going to clean up the shelter, and you invite them in, and everybody comes in to clean up the shelter. You've gotten them first to the shelter, and they can see some of the areas where the people come in from the shelter, and you can talk to them during that process. So volunteer opportunities are very, very important. Surveys. So surveys are a valuable tool to learn how your prospect feels. They give you their feedback, and feedback is paramount. Surveys allows you to ask specific questions about aspects of your nonprofits, and even better, they allow your prospect a place to answer anonymously. So you can ask them about, and I use surveys quite a bit because I wanted to ask about my nonprofit image in the community. I wanted to ask about what their experience was with different events that we had. If we had a volunteer opportunity, I wanted to get feedback on that volunteer opportunity, and also the quality of our communication. Because if you're sending an e-newsletter or a print newsletter and there's a lot of misspellings in there that you don't even notice or pay attention to, an anonymous survey will allow you to gather that information from your donors. So don't be afraid of surveys. send them out to donors. You may get 100% of people, of course, won't answer the surveys, but if you get even a 10% conversion rate on your surveys, you're doing good. That's the information that you did not have before, and it's actually from your prospective donors. So, and the last and final one is events. So when we say friend raising events, what we're talking about is inviting them in to tour your facility. Roundtable discussions, have them be a part of a roundtable discussion. So if you, that's facilitated maybe by a board member, or if you have a higher up in a parent organization, they can facilitate that conversation. They're low pressured events, really designed to inform your guests about the great work that you're doing. So the one that I really liked, is more of a social event at a board member's house or donors, a major donor's home, and they're called house parties. And basically, a house party is a small gathering, maybe 10 or so people that your board member invites to their home, and includes those prospective donors and maybe even some lapsed donors. And it's a social event. It's not an ask event. It's interacting as guests. You do sprinkle in little tidbits about your organization during the house party. You might have one mission moment where you show a video of your clients and who you serve, or you have someone speak about your clients or who you serve. But that's it. And you don't ask for money. And you have to make sure you have a sign-in sheet where you capture their information, their email, their address, things of that nature. And then once you have that information, then you, like I said, you can invite them on tours of your facilities. You can invite them to roundtable discussions. So a house party is really a tool that you can use, and a tool that I like using. And it actually got my board involved in the fundraising process. They didn't see it as fundraising. They saw it as what it was. It was friend raising. They opened up their home and they provided food and snacks, and we went through that process, and it was no more than an hour, hour and a half. You don't want to take up too much of your donors' time or the prospective donors' time and or your board members' time. So I'm gonna pause because I have a question from Desiree. Are fact sheets about your organizations good for social events? Yes, you can have fact sheets. You can have brochures out, any information like that out for the social event. But you sprinkle, like I said, you sprinkle in tidbits of information about your organization, and a tidbit could be a brochure or a fact sheet out. But this is a social gathering. You're getting to know them. They do know that they're there to learn a little bit about your organization. So having that fact sheet out is good. You have a sign-in sheet where you capture their information. You show a quick video of a mission moment for your organization, and then it goes back to socializing. So no more than an hour and a half, and those are great events to start raising friends. Actually, those are my favorite events to put on. They're low pressure. It gets the board member involved, and the board member is actually involved with friend raising, which is basically fundraising, and it takes the fear out of fundraising for your board. So it's a great way to engage prospective donors or lapsed donors. So I would say if you are looking to do friend raising, house parties are great. And if you need help with the house party, just reach out to me. Basically, have sample agendas. I have the script that you even say. And they evolved over time. Like I said, they were one of my favorite things to do. And so I have a good grasp on those. So again, utilizing your board members and volunteers and key donors would bring their friends to an event simply to learn more about you without adding the pressure of financial ask from the guests. That's what those house party events are. So I know my favorite house party was, we had a fish fry at a board member's house, and it was wonderful. And we got a lot of people signed up because they love the fish. And we brought them in for tours of our facility, and we carried them through that courting process. Remember that courting process, I would say before the ask, you need to at least throughout the year make at least 5 contacts with that potential donor. Whether it is, again, taking them out for coffee or tea, whether that is picking up the phone and calling them, making sure they get the newsletter, inviting them on a tour of your facility, inviting them to a house party. 5 touches are appropriate before you make the ask. Now, how do you know when to make the ask? That's going to be based on your gut and your intuition, because there really is no magic formula there. You kind of know when you got the donor where it's a good and solid relationship now, and it's time for the ask. I can't really give you a magic bullet around when, but I know that if you ask them right at the beginning stages, they may give you something just to make you go away because there's no relationship. That's the token gift. They may give you something because, like I said, just to make you go away, the token gift. Or they'll give you something and it's not going to be everything that they could have given you. So making and nurturing friends pay off. Friends are more loyal than donors. They perceive that there's a mutual beneficial relationship, one that really matters to them. They'll recommend you to their friends. Now that is the golden pot. They're your friends, and then they start to recommend you to their friends. And when they recommend you to their friends, instead of you going in and trying to just establish this relationship, trust is already there, because my trusted friend is introducing this organization to me. Then there's already a level of trust and credibility there before you even hit the scene. So they can also, it can also help you build and sustain a culture of philanthropy. And what does a culture of philanthropy means? That simply means it's a donor-centered organization. Everything that you do is centered around the donor. It's what the donor has accomplished with the gift that was made. It is not about, we go in as nonprofits and we think, oh, we're great and we serve this many members and we did this and we did this and we did this. No, it's about what you as the donor has done. It's about what you allowed us to do, what your gift allowed us to do. So don't ever forget that it is donor-centered. And if the ask is well into the relationship, that's why I say don't jump to the ask right away. If the ask is well into the relationship, you are going to leave less money on the table. They're not going to give you that token gift just to make you go away. They're not going to not give, because a relationship has been established. So most importantly, you will be significantly helping your organization enjoy an exciting present and vibrant future if you do this friend raising process. And so I really encourage you to do the friend raising process. And I hope this has helped. I see I've answered some questions. Does anyone else have any questions out there? I must pause just for a couple of minutes to see if anybody's typing, see if anybody have any questions out there. And if we don't have any questions, that's fine. You can post questions in the rebroadcast. We had some very good questions today. Thank you, Miss Desiree. But that is our time for right now. I'm currently looking for topics that you want to hear about. Hit me up on Facebook at Supporting World Hope to let me know what topics y'all want to hear about, and tap the live button so the next time I go live, you will be notified. You can also see other videos I have done on my YouTube account. You can just search for Supporting World Hope, or by visiting my website at www.supportingworldhope. I actually have a YouTube tab on my website, so I put the videos there. I really try to make it convenient for you to find these videos because my ultimate goal is to help the small nonprofit out there. And what do I consider a small nonprofit? I consider a small nonprofit a nonprofit that has a budget of $0 to $4 million and maybe don't have a development officer or development team, or you do have development and it's just one person, is what I consider a small organization and a small nonprofit. And my goal is to really help small nonprofits. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram at @the_nonprofit expert. And you can follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn at Supporting World Hope. And that is Sipping Tea with Sabrina. See you next time. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.